In dollars and cents, and I know I've asked this question a number of times of you, and in dollars and cents, how much should a student have to pay for his college or her college education?
Well, the average that a student has for spending money across the nation is $2,000. So, and then the work-study program. So, you know, I don't know. I think each kid is different. Each kid has different abilities on what they should be paying, but they should be taking out some of the loans. There's no doubt in my mind that they should be responsible, because if they have ownership for it, they're not going to blow off that lab. My son figured out how much it would cost if he blew off a lab and go to soccer practice. So he didn't go to soccer practice, he went to his engineering lab. And so college is expensive, and you should be talking about it with your kids from the time they're toddlers. I'm serious. I mean, you know, what are your expectations? You want to go to UMass? You want to go here? You want to go there? Where did mom and dad go? Did mom and dad go? And that's even harder if you're mom and dad, because both my husband and I are the first generation to go to college in our families. It was a really big deal. Our kids just expected to go to college.
There you have it. Thank you very much. Now rebuttal time. Jack has been biting at the bit over here.
I know, it's a good thing we're on opposite ends of this panel this morning.
Jack, tell me about this reaction you've had to both Kim and Dee. And, you know, it's a reality check, obviously, and it's tough, and it's daunting to most families.
So let's check the reality.
Okay.
Okay? I think that's what we should do, because, Kim, I think, accurately portrayed the fear among parents. And I go around trying to say, you know, slow down a little bit. I don't share Kim's pessimism at all. Believe me, I'm very critical of what the states have done to public education. Don't get me wrong. But Joe really gave the key to it, which is that it's not about what the posted price is. It's about what the student has to pay. And so when I saw one of these headlines recently that said, well, the average cost at UMass is, the cost at UMass is $20,000. How could a family making $30,000 a year possibly afford UMass? And I said, that's just about the stupidest thing I ever heard. I asked our folks, I said, tell me what a family pays on average at the University of Massachusetts by income range. Now, this is for tuition, fees, room and board, and as a parent of 4, I can tell you the room and board was a lot when they were at my house.
Gallon of milk a day, right?
My last one going to college this year. Books. So tuition fees, room, board, and books. I mean, everything. All in. What do they pay? That family under $30,000 last year at UMass paid an average of $2,311 for tuition fees, room and board, and books. Now, I can't feed any one of my children for $2,311 per year. So I would say to a parent that was in that income range, you better send your kid off to college, because you're going to get them fed more cheaply than you are if you're going to keep them at home. But I can give you a few other figures. You could say, well, what if I'm making $50,000 to $75,000, with I think $78,000, Anthony's about the median income here. They pay $7,273 per year for tuition fees, room and board. And I think the privates try to work at that as well. I even looked at greater than $100,000, and it's $15,000, $15,013. So I think that one message that I want to give parents is that don't look at the sticker price. Think about what it's going to cost you. And one of the things you can do is investigate the college to find out what do parents of different income ranges pay. And one of the things that we have pushed on, and I personally spoke to the Secretary of Education in Washington, D.C., Arne Duncan, and said, if there's one priority I'd like to see in higher education for the federal government, it's make sure that colleges get on their websites what does it cost a student to go by income range, so that a parent can log on and say, okay, my income is $75,000 a year. On average, what would it cost me to go to this institution? But I think it's very important to get the actual numbers out there and to recognize that there's significant financial aid available. Thank you.
We're going to continue with the rebuttal, but I do want to ask you, those of you who have questions, if you could raise your hand and we're going to bring a microphone to you because I know we're going to have lots of questions, and we have microphones out here, and we will go to your questions quickly. We have a question over here, and I think we have a question in the back here, and we'll bring the microphones. Keep your hand up until the microphone's there, and we'll get to you in just a few moments, okay? Eileen, rebuttal, continue.
Well, I'd like to continue in the vein that Jack was just going in, and that the federal government actually passed a new law that effective October of this year, every college in the country has to have available what they call a net price calculator, so that even if your child is in kindergarten, you could go online to the college of your choice and put in some information about yourself, and the college will give you an estimate of what your costs would be at that school given the financial aid you would probably be eligible for. So that is a really nice benefit that wasn't available before. Keeping in mind it's always averages, and depending on how far out you are from actually attending college, it may make a difference in changes to policies over time. But especially in the high school years, I think it will prove very valuable as you're narrowing your choices down. And it isn't enough to look at the sticker price. At Stonehill College, 86% of our students have some type of financial aid from the college itself as well as from the government. And so there's so much funding available for students, obviously not only at our school but at all schools, that there is always a home for a student on the college level.
Joe?
I think, excuse me, for historic reasons, paying for college is now perhaps the most complex financial transaction that a family makes. It is more complex than buying a home. It's more complex than getting a car loan. And the reasons for that is obviously the cost of college and the escalating cost of college and the variety of systems with which you must interact to get to that difference between price and cost. My concern is that's a certain level of financial sophistication, and if you're not first generation, it means that your parents are trying to help you and they've never had that experience. And so we've got a real divide in this country about the access to the information. And when people are subject to the daily press reports about college cost or what's going on with the budget right now down in DC, they can inappropriately draw the conclusion we can't do it. And so it takes a certain amount to overcome what's in the air to become knowledgeable about this. And we need the help of people in all kinds of sectors, the financial services sector, social service agencies, more than just the institutions themselves, to get the word out that this is a complex but knowable transaction, and there are people here to help. And unfortunately, there's a social status bias here, where students with the fewest resources get access to the worst information.
Cam, are you feeling any better?
That's true. I think the net price calculator is a great thing that's going to help people. And actually, I went on the University of Massachusetts website, and I used your calculator. That's how I got those numbers. So, the other thing I wanted to say is you mentioned that you wanted students to take loans. I think it's crucial that students only take federal loans. The private loans are extremely expensive, and the federal loans, today's federal loans are not your parents' federal loans. They're so much better. There's a new program called income-based repayment, so when the student graduates, their payments rise and fall with their income, so that if they get a low-paying job as a waitress or whatever, they don't go broke, they don't go into default if they can't make their high monthly payment. The payment falls. In addition, if they take a public service job, they make their small, low payments every month for 10 years, and the rest of the loan is forgiven, so they can actually see some light at the end of the tunnel. So if you stick with the federal loan program, which for a freshman is about $5,500, and it rises up depending on your age and your status, then you'll be okay. But I wouldn't want to encourage anybody to step outside of those and take private loans.
Dee, can families afford these numbers that Jack talked about?
I think they can, but one of the things we forget about are all those other costs for college. You know, you give us those numbers on the websites, you give us those numbers in the magazines, but what if the kid goes to college in California? How do you pay for them to get back and forth? New clothes, new computer that's required, the pizza runs, the spring breaks like they want to be with everybody else. I mean, how do you pay for those things? I mean, I don't know. I'm just throwing that question out there. We have the price of college. We have all these other added things that go along with it, including the dorm room. My God, some kid said he needed a new refrigerator for his dorm room. So how do we pay for those? And you talk about loans. 37% of graduates are struggling to pay back their loans. That's a big number. And it affects them when they go out to get a job, when they want to buy a house, when they want to buy a car, because they still have this amount of debt. Average debt's about $20,000 a year. Yes, they can now, I think it's 10%. They would only have, if
I think it's less than 15% of your disposable income.
right,
so
and it goes down to 10 for certain,
it goes to 0 if your
right,
income is low enough.
right.
so.
But and that's wonderful. But the other thing is that I wanted to bring up about loans. One of the I hear from listeners after the fact, not so much struggling getting their kids in colleges, but what's left afterwards, what we're paying for. We can't retire because we're paying for loans. We refinance the house to pay for school. But one of the things I found that adults who are the non-custodial parent, the step-parent, are co-signing loans, and the kids walk away from the loans. So now we've got parents or individuals who are stuck with these loans, and guess what? You can file bankruptcy, but you can't get rid of the student loan. It goes with you forever, forever. So you have to be careful about those loans. You really, really do. And it is the kids' education. I can't say that enough. They should be helping. They're probably more computer literate than you are. So they should be educating themselves on what financial aid is out there. And yes, you're right about being the first generation. But you know what? If the kid wants to go to college bad enough, they should be down at that counselor's office at high school as soon as they'll let them in the door in their junior year. They should be the one on the computer looking for scholarships, looking for aid, looking at the schools, because maybe their parents are illiterate when it comes to computers. But whose responsibility is it? Whose responsibility is it? Is what I get back to.
Excellent.